Hey y'all, it's Brett Hornung.
And Mitch Baum.
And Jack Mahoney. And this is
The Real Life, Jacob Lawrence.
Jacob Lawrence was born on September 7, 1917 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. When he was only 13, he moved to Harlem, New York, but his roots were never in the North. His family was originally from the South, but in the Great Migration, they came to the North looking for work. As a teen, he was very interested in art, making multiple visits to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and admiring the classic artists such as Van Gogh and Matisse. During this time, he was also studying under Charles Alston at the Harlem Art Workshop. As he got older, his late teens, he studied under Augustus Savage in Harlem at the Uptown Art Laboratory. His early 20s consisted of him working for the WPA or the Workers' Progress Administration as an artist. During 1940 and 1941, he created his 60-painting series titled The Migration of the Negro. Also in 1941, he married the love of his life, Gwendolyn Knight. Back into his artistic endeavors, in 1942-1943, he again used his surroundings and environment, Harlem, as subject for another series of 30 paintings. The impending war did not stop him, though. He was drafted into the Coast Guard in 1942 and spent the next 4 years until his enlistment ended in 1946, painting 48 images of the war overseas in Italy, England, Egypt, and India. Unfortunately, none of these paintings survived. When he got back home from the war, he took a post at the Black Mountain College in North Carolina. Though his artistic imagination was flourishing, his mental health had gone downhill. In 1949, he admitted himself into the Hillside Hospital in Queens for depression. He did paint while in the hospital, but his mental health was reflected in his paintings showing depressions and melancholy. This journey helped him realize that his greatest symbol was the builder. He focused on the builder in his paintings from the 1950s till his death on June 9, 2000. The Migration of the Negro. It was a series of 60 small pictures depicting the journey of African Americans from a poor and repressive rural South to a prosperous but unwelcoming urban North between the two world wars. One of the more interesting facts about this series was that he painted it production style. He would apply a single color to many of the paintings at once, then move on to another color, essentially painting multiple paintings simultaneously. It was all done at 33 West 125th Street in Harlem, in a cold water studio. All of the painting was completed within a year, during 1940-1941.
To help better explain Jacob Lawrence and his works is our friend at Art Treasures of Nebraska. Take it away, ma'am.
At Sheldon Memorial Art Gallery, vibrant colors and social overtones shade Jacob Lawrence's paper boats. At first glance, the scene appears playful, 3 men sailing paper boats on a street. But a closer look suggests another scenario. The men are slumped over and their faces express sadness or hopelessness. Lawrence grew up in poverty and was largely self-trained in the arts. But he achieved fame at age 21 using bold colors and angular forms to depict scenes of African American history. In Paper Boats, he celebrates familiar surroundings and routine activities. Lawrence stated, "My pictures express my life, so I paint the American scene."
Now that we've watched that video clip, examine the painting Paper Boats. Notice the geometric shapes used in the painting. The figures are very angular and the 3 men form a triangular shape. This shape is commonly found in paintings to convey a feeling of strength and closeness. This closeness between the 3 men in the painting, Paper Boats, is apparent in their common life.
The Builder series was one that was worked on by Jacob Lawrence from the late 1940s to the end of his life. The series reflects Lawrence's childhood in Harlem, in which he was surrounded by local cabinet makers and carpenters. In particular, Jacob was around 2 cabinet makers called the Bates brothers. Ever since his exposure to the 2 men, Jacob has collected and used tools in his paintings. Throughout his life, Jacob has developed an increasing admiration for the hand tools used in the building profession. He believes that the tools hold a timeless beauty that has remained unchanged for centuries.
Early on in his career, his early 20s, he was developing a new version of modernism. He used his experiences of Harlem and the African American race in general, and their extensive journey as his subjects. This was best shown in his Migration of the Negro series. During this time, he used bold colors, repeating patterns, and asymmetrical compositions. One of the more unique aspects of his art during this period was that he was able to incorporate characteristics of jazz music, rhythm, breaks, and changes into his art. Once he at Black Mountain College, he studied under Joseph Albers, who helped him really understand what he was doing with his art. He helped him understand how and why he made 2D objects appear 3D, and how he was able to change colors' meanings by using them in different forms. Albers was also able to reveal to him Jacob's use of organic movement and geometric shapes. Just 3 years after his summer at Black Mountain College, his technique changed again. While he was in the hospital, the characteristics of his paintings changed dramatically. Now, the people in these paintings are reassigned. Their facial features agonized. The colors are mixed and subdued. After his release from the hospital, he integrated chiaroscuro, contrast between light and dark. Another interesting aspect that is started to be seen in his work is the use of masks as a metaphor. One of his major symbols he used from the end of World War II was the builder. The builder represented not only the increased role of African Americans in the construction trade during this time, but also represented Lawrence's ideas about American labor culture, especially the female. During this time, he used mostly primary colors, black and white, with humans as his subject, and the background consisting of building tools and materials. This technique and style was continued up until his death in 2000. He painted a countless number of paintings, with some of the major series in paintings, The Migration of the Negro and the Builder series. How Jacob Lawrence was a voice of the Harlem Renaissance. The Harlem Renaissance was a creative movement that took place in New York City, specifically Harlem, in the early 1920s. Harlem was a primarily African American neighborhood, filled with recently uprooted Southerners. It was this combination that set off this culture-rich movement. Some of the different aspects included music, art, and literature. One of the biggest contributions the Harlem Renaissance has given to mankind is the conception of jazz and musicians like Louis Armstrong and Fats Waller. Literature boomed, producing writers such as Langston Hughes and Zora Neale. The artists were no different, with Palmer Hayden and Louis Jones, and of course Jacob Lawrence, coming into their own at this time. Jacob Lawrence, one of the more notable artists from this time period, represents this period well. He painted about life in Harlem at this time. The vibrant colors and upbeat attitude reflected in his painting accurately depict Harlem. Not only does he depict Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance very well, he was true to his roots as well, and in his Migration of the Negro series, he outlined and showed the journey that African Americans had to make to reach that point. Another notable connection between him and the Harlem Renaissance was his painting of the artists that performed at the Apollo Theater, a huge accomplishment for any up-and-coming musician during this time. And this legacy of accomplishment even carries over into the present day.